Welcome to another episode of It's a Long Beach Thing. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform and like us on Facebook on It's a Long Beach Thing. We have a great show for you today. We have a good friend of mine, Ben Goldberg's on the show today. Ben, how are you today?
Fantastic, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. When
Great.
I got to tell you this, when I started this podcast, I had a short list of people I wanted to reach out to, and you were definitely one of the people on the list because I know how much Long Beach means to you and how you've been ingrained in the community. So I wanted to pick your brain about the city and see what your thoughts are.
No problem. Always happy to talk about Long Beach.
Very cool. So let's get into that. What is your connection with this great city of Long Beach?
So I was born and raised here in Long Beach. Was born at St. Mary's Hospital and went to Hill Junior High School, which is no longer a junior high school anymore, and Wilson High School, and Long Beach City College, and have two children, both of which went through the triangle. They went to Lowell and then Rogers and then Wilson. And then my son, of course, went on to San Jose State baseball stardom, and now is a working man in the Long Beach area. His territory extends from Orange County right here in Huntington Beach down to the traffic circle in Long Beach. So that's his territory. So he's still in Long Beach as well, working. I'm working. My office is also in Long Beach, right there at the Congressional Place, right closest to Seal Beach there on Pacific Coast Highway. So yeah, I mean, I'm here. This has been my city and my life, my whole career and family have been raised here. So my father before me was a Lakewood High School guy. Not his fault. His parents just didn't have the money to live in Long Beach, so it's okay. And it was always fun to watch him root for Wilson when they were playing Lakewood, and we beat them every time when my son was pitching for sure. So anyway, so so that's my deal.
Right on. And what in your opinion, what makes Long Beach so special? I know you grew up here, obviously there's nostalgia, but what makes it special in your heart?
Well, I will say that it certainly has changed over the last decade or so. But growing up here, especially and raising the kids here, I will tell you that it was always the big city, small town feel. You knew everyone walking down the street, especially in a very tight knit east side of Long Beach, 3rd District, 4th District, 5th District area. A lot of community involvement, a lot of people, a lot of the same faces that we either grew up with or who might have coached my son or someone in Parks and Rec or someone I work with in the Parks Department or just anyone you can imagine. People that can afford to live here in Long Beach certainly enjoy all the benefits of being in Long Beach. So it's just a great town. I mean, you got between Belmont Shore and you got the coastline and you got the great golf courses. I mean, really, it's you got it all. And you even have theater if you want theater, and you've got concerts in the park, and just great local fun stuff to do where you don't have to get in your car and drive to LA. And that's not something people like to do. And you can do it all here in Long Beach, basically.
Absolutely. And at one point in time, you owned a restaurant called the Beach Club near, I guess, 7th and PCH there, which that's where I met you there. How did you get involved in wanting to do that?
Well, I was living down the street from that location. I lived in the Hole or University Park Estates, depending on how old you are and if you know the area. And I used to frequent Pete's at the beach. And before that, it was Bon Gusto's. And before that, it was Pizza Eatery. When I was in junior high school, we used to go to Pizza Eatery and play the video games and go have pizzas and everything like that. So I knew the location well and had been speaking to the owner about possibly buying out Legends because I felt like Legends had been burned down. There was a fire and they weren't rebuilding and they were running out of money, and there was a big story behind that, and there was some possibility that it might be in play, and that never happened. But when Pete Koukouris, who owned Pete's the Beach and Bo Gusto before that, ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw during the economic slowdown, 08, 09, he wanted to get out, and he called me, and I had a few investors that were interested as well and felt we could do something with it and do a better job. And so we put together about three people, three local families, and we bought them out and kind of reinvented it a little bit, made it more of a local people. Pete's from Huntington Beach, and he wasn't really local, even though he'd had restaurants there for a long time. He didn't know the youth sports community and other things like that. So we went ahead and kind of revamped it. And for a while there, we had a really good thing going, making good money and enjoying the community at the same time. So it was a lot of fun.
And I believe there was an article written about you by Doug Korian. That's where you guys met? Were you owning the beach club and he coming in for a beer? And I think the story goes that he sat down. You correct me if I'm wrong, but he sat down and you said, "Hey, you'll be writing about my son one day. He's the next Sandy Koufax. He'll be pitching for the Dodgers one day."
That's right. That's exactly what I told him. And he thought, just like many fathers before had told him the same thing, he was still intrigued. And he actually came to a few of the high school games that he pitched in. And like I said, he was just a couple of clicks away from playing for possibly the Angels or someone else that was speaking with him, until his arm started getting a little injured, and he decided it was time to hang up the cleats in his senior year of college. But yeah, he almost made it. But he did write a lot of articles about him in high school, and he wrote a lot of articles about him as he was progressing into his scholarship and everything else. So he certainly had some print. A few of those articles are behind me at my office. I'm very proud of those articles, and yeah, it's really a really good guy. And Doug and I are very good friends. We remain friends, and even though he's retired from writing, him and I reminisce about a lot of that stuff. So yeah, it's very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I love about you, Ben, is your tenacity. You have a great heart, but you're not afraid to say what's on your mind with the community and what you're doing. And you've done some wonderful things. Talk about a little bit of what you're doing in the community now to improve Long Beach.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because during the pandemic, things took a dramatic change for me personally, as well as the community itself, as you know. And I ended up moving out of Long Beach, and I'm now in Huntington Harbor on the water here in Sunset Beach. And
That's
that
not a bad place
decision.
to be either, though.
No, it's not. It's not too far either. I'm able to get to my office quicker now than I did when I had my house in Long Beach over there in the hole. So just it's three lights, and if I hit them all, I'm there in about 4 or 5 minutes. So it's pretty funny. But a lot has changed, and right now I think Long Beach is at a very big tipping point. It's the demographics have changed dramatically. The military has been gone for decades. We still have the VA hospital, so it keeps veterans coming into the area, but they're not necessarily all living in Long Beach like they once did. And with the shipyard closing and transitioning to more tourism and more focus on the port, of course. But the real concern I have, and I'm still the chairperson for the Long Beach area Republican Party, and that is it goes basically to my home. It's basically Huntington Beach, Seal Beach, and then all of Long Beach, basically. Los Alamitos, a little bit of that, a little bit exposure to Los Al as well, but it's pretty much just the Long Beach area. And we're really pushing hard for Susie Price. She's not a Republican. Officially, we're not endorsing her because we are a Republican organization and we're chartered with the state of California, so we cannot officially endorse a Democrat, but she is still a very moderate. She's what I call a Kennedy Democrat. My parents were all Democrats. I'm actually the first Republican in my family. And so, even they are shaking their heads, wondering what in the world is going on with not just Long Beach, but of course, Los Angeles and all these liberal sanctuary cities. And we are starting to see the result of that. So I'm concerned. I think that Susie will help stop the bleeding. I don't know that she's going to have enough influence to really make big changes, because the council will still be leaning heavy left, regardless of whether she's mayor or not. But I think that she certainly will ensure that the next 4, 8 years, or even 12 now that they can do 3 terms, we could certainly not go further into the abyss, I like to say. And that's really the concern. Her opponent is also a Democrat, but he's a absolute far left almost socialist Democrat, and he has publicly come out against the police and against law and order. He's backpedaling like the rest of the Democratic Party is about that. But without a safe city, you've got nothing, and that is the most important. And it shows in the fact that even though the fire union did back him, that was a side deal that was made years ago when he was running against Garcia. That was kind of a deal that was cut. And I think that the fire department had no choice but to kind of go with that promise. But the police department, the Police Officer Association, did not endorse him and endorsed Susie Price. And that speaks volumes, because normally both fire and police will endorse the same candidate, especially for a citywide office. They don't like to go opposite sides, and it's going to be a very tight race. So someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. But the good news for the fire department is that, 1 second here, sorry. The good thing for the fire department is that even if Susie wins, she's not going to hold the grudge that of course Rex will against the police if he wins. So the fire department's in good shape if heaven forbid it goes against us and Rex wins. They're going to have an opportunity to still get the same respect and commitment to service that they would regardless. So it's a win-win for the fire. But the police, I really hope for their sake that Susie does win, and for the sake of the citizens of Long Beach, because their safety is certainly on the decline, and that's my biggest focus right now. And if for some reason Susie is unable to win, that may be the last local race that I'm involved with in Long Beach. And I say that to you, I'll still be involved with congressional seats or state legislature seats if there's a Republican involved. But quite frankly, if Susie does not win, there won't be anything left to salvage politically anyway, for sure. So anyways, that's my take. I don't mean to sound like a downer, but that's the reality of what we're facing right now. And part of that is due to the current mayor, who's now running for Congress, who will win that seat probably very easily. And this is not a slight to him directly, other than to say that, my whole life, we tried to stay out of the shadow of Los Angeles. We were our own city. We were proud of that. We had a lot to offer, and we had our own health department. We had a lot of other things that separate us from Los Angeles. And we were always in their shadow, just kind of because of the fact that LA is so large. And I will tell you that when this pandemic hit, our mayor couldn't run fast enough to go lockstep with Los Angeles, LA County, and all of the Los Angeles mayor and so on, and of course the governor, because he knew he was going to run for Congress and he needed that chip. And so unfortunately, the citizens of Long Beach now are going to suffer as a result of that, especially if Rex wins. Again, he'll continue that momentum in basically liberalizing the entire system, and that's kind of scary. But
Well, what practical changes do you think that need to be made to improve the city of Long Beach?
Well, the problem is it's not just as simple. Just hire a bunch of extra police officers and now we're back in business. They've basically gone lockstep with how they treat the police officers, and now it's criminals' rights. It's criminal rights over victims' rights, and that's more of an LA County dictum. Obviously, they tried to. We tried. We were very active in trying to get on the ballot the recall of Gascon, who certainly didn't do us any favors. And so it's not so much what specifically we can do that's going to just fix the problem, but we need to put people in charge that are adults and understand that there are consequences here. And the problem is you have, again, Rex will do exactly what Mayor Garcia did, but even better, because he has more practice, and he's going to, of course, go with the minority card will be big for him as well. And so he's going to really use Long Beach as an example of the criminals are important. They've been oppressed, and so we need to be more open to other ways in handling the crime, and that's a sad reality. And so if he's in there, that's what you're gonna see is you're gonna see more emboldenment of the criminal. And we're seeing it in Chicago, and we're seeing it in DC, and we're seeing it in these other cities. And and nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to be saying, I mean, don't get me wrong, I shouldn't say nobody, but nobody that has any authority to make a change are willing to step up and go against the grain. Of course, we do have that wonderful LA County Sheriff, um,
Alex
yes,
Villanueva.
Villanueva, who I love, and I supported his opponent when he ran. But I will tell you that even though he is a Democrat and he does have some liberal ideals in the background, he has certainly risen to the challenge and has enforced the law and has given citizens rights for a concealed carry, and have done a lot of things that his predecessors would never do. And of course, it's getting him in a lot of trouble, a lot of heat in the press from those LA County supervisors that just can't stand him. And it's going to cause even more rift when he wins again here. And they're going to try to unseat him through the county supervisors. And I'm hoping that the citizenry that vote in, I believe they're going to vote in Caruso for mayor, which is great. He's basically a Republican who switched to independent for the race, because being a Republican is much harder to win in Los Angeles, especially. But he is basically a Republican as far as the way he'll manage the city, like a business person, and he will have Villanueva's back. I am 100% sure of. And so that's going to be, and hopefully those same voters that vote for Caruso do not allow the county supervisors of LA to have the authority to fire the elected sheriff. That would be a disaster, and that would send a terrible precedent for the rest of the city, rest of the state, rest of the country. So that's kind of where I'm at. We're really looking at this as a holistic approach, because the homeless problem was here before, but it's only gotten worse because, again, it's the homeless rights. Let them camp right out in front of someone's home, and because the way the laws are there and out of Sacramento to protect them, there's nothing the homeowner can do. And again, I'm not trying to sound like a person who doesn't care about homelessness. There are ways to address it. Susie has a plan. She's gone over it a few times at different venues. But the bottom line is, I think as a property owner who owns a $3 million, $2 million home in Naples, I should not have to worry about guys that are strung out on drugs and everything else, wandering around my neighborhood and camping out and basically staking out the area so that they can rob and cause mischief. And I got to tell you, it's getting bad, and not just in the bad areas. Now it's all over. It's absolutely rampant. And again, the police officers, their hands are tied. And besides just with that issue, the other part of their hands are tied is, if you got a guy that's got 25 years in, and you get a domestic dispute call, you're going to do everything you can to avoid any actual law enforcement, because you might end up, if you do the wrong thing, they're going to immediately back the assailant, okay, the person causing the problems, and you could lose your pension and go to jail. And so that message is out there. And so I feel terrible for the law enforcement. And then again, they're shooting at firefighters too, because they're the first on the scene in a lot of crime scenes. And the criminals don't care. They don't care whether they're police or fire. They got a uniform on, and they'll shoot them too. And we've lost firefighters to that. And anyway, it's a problem, and we need to really. And I'm hoping and praying that the people that are paying attention get off their couch and vote, and get their mail-in ballot in, because I can assure you the Democratic liberal machine is getting out, and they're walking areas that normally don't vote, collecting ballots, stuffing the boxes with them, and that's going to be a problem. And that's why it's going to be a very tight race. It should be a no-brainer. Susie Price is a Democrat. She's been a good Democrat, but she's a fiscal conservative, and she gets it about law enforcement. She's an assistant DA to one of the most conservative district attorneys in the entire country, okay, over here, Spitzer, who's absolutely amazing, also taking a lot of heat for being amazing and saying it the way it is, because heaven forbid you actually say something that sounds anything close to off the official liberal language, okay, you're now a racist and you're a bad person, and you should be punished for it. And that's what's happened, unfortunately, to the city of Long Beach. And I'm hoping that we could, like I said, stop the bleeding. And that's what I'm gonna be doing. I mean, we've got a big barbecue coming up for just our annual barbecue. We've got a lot of Republican candidates coming to speak to us, both Orange County and the Los Angeles County, for congressional seats, as well as state legislature and others. And we're raising money, and we're doing what we can, but we're doing it legitimately, and we're not doing it through these crazy, we don't have the Soros money flowing in the back door. We're doing it legit, and we're going to try one last time here to make things right, in Congress as well as the city. So there you go.
Other than voting, obviously, I mean, that was a big thing that you're talking about, get out and vote. But other than that, as citizens of the Long Beach area, what can we do to improve it? Because, obviously, there might be a chance that, and that's just life, we don't always get the candidate we want to get, and we have to live with that. But what can we do as citizens, regardless of who is elected, to make this city, improving?
Well, we have, neighborhood watch programs have kind of, again, funding has gone away for that. There's just been a lot of areas that have been cut. And so, but I still think that citizens, like, again, in my neighborhood where I lived, in the University Park Estates, we still have block captains. We still call each other. We still communicate. And I know that the East Side has probably one of the best systems as far as different neighborhoods. But I think what happens is a lot of the people that were very active for all these years are now getting very old. And some are dying, and we don't have that same commitment to community that we had. And again, a lot of the kids that couldn't afford to live here, that grew up in Long Beach, have moved away, and a lot have moved out of state. And so we need new blood in the local street by street communities, and people have to get involved. Otherwise, you're basically going to be a victim to whatever some random act occurs. And so you have to have people willing to do that. And I'm 52 now, and when I ran for city council, I was in my 20s. And I was a commissioner with the city for 20 years, and I served and did a lot of good things for the park system and for the marinas, and I was able to get lots of donation money to the Pony League program and the Wilson High School program, and for underprivileged children with the Long Beach Youth Home. And I was president of my association for 8 years. And, I did everything I possibly could do to make sure that at least there was someone out there keeping an eye out for everyone. And we need more people like that in their 20s and 30s and 40s that can come out and do that. And I don't know what it's going to take. It's obvious that when obviously a terrible crime occurs, then you get the community coming out in outrage. But, people need to speak up. If they see something wrong, they need to make a concerted effort to reach out to the police department, to reach out to the city council, and tell them, we're not going to sit here and let you ruin the city and just stand by and watch. You're going to lead here. This is not just a stepping stone to your next political office. And that's the biggest problem, is that every single one of these people that come in here that have not grown up in Long Beach, that don't have the historical knowledge, institutional knowledge of this city, they come here, they tout their liberal agenda, and they get themselves noticed for one reason or another, and then they go on to state legislature, and they leave Long Beach citizens, me, Ben Goldberg, and the rest of my friends, basically holding the bag of their bad decisions that they didn't have to live with. In other words, they make these ridiculous, stupid decisions, but they're not here long enough to see them blow up in their face. And by the time it blows up, they're already in the state legislature or running for Congress or whatever else they do. They use us like oil, like a commodity, and then they throw us out. They don't remember us, and that's unfortunate. And that's and people have to just wake up to it, because you just look at the pattern. Beverly O'Neill was a wonderful woman. She grew up here. She understood the importance. She came in during a time of transition for the city, where we lost the shipyard, and we had to transition to tourism and other things. She did a great job starting that off, and then Bob Foster came in and really did a nice job trying to do some good work regarding the businesses and what have you. And now we've got these yayos that are worried about naming the library after a first lady of a president who never visited Long Beach, who didn't grow up here. I mean, but that was great for his future, to be to the next level. So that was more important than fixing the homeless problem, or getting businesses more streamlined processes to get licenses. Okay, and then they wanted to make sure they shut this city down and kept it shut down even after we had the vaccines. Okay, longer than they needed to do, and ran out all these business people that have been here for decades. Okay, and so that's why you've got board up shops in Belmont Shore, and that's why you're seeing a different element that's controlling the levers, because the people that know what's really going on have vacated, and it's and I'm very sad for that. I was hoping my grandchildren, I was going to keep the house that I lived in and raised my kids in for 25 years. I was there for my son or daughter to raise their children, and I realized this city was not headed in the right direction, and there was no reason, because my kids may not be here. They may be in South Carolina or Tennessee or Nevada or Arizona or some other state that might have a little more understanding of the importance of schools and law and order and children. I mean, the school district, Jill Baker, who I was happy that actually took over the school district, really buckled to the unions, and did not do her job to fight for those kids, and left them out of school way too long. And that's going to become a bigger problem as these young kids become teenagers, and the socialization skills that they lack. So there's lots of things. I mean, I think I've gone off on a tangent for you. Sorry about that, but that's what people need to be aware of. They need to get serious about it. And if they do, we can stop the bleeding. Turning it around is going to take years. It'll take at least a decade, but at least we can stop the bleeding and start moving in the right direction in the next few years. That would be a tremendous encouragement for us to get back on track.
So as you being Republican, obviously the city of Long Beach sways left most of the time. So obviously you run into a lot of, I would say, a lot of resistance, shall we say, about your political agenda, and you're a very strong person, and you don't hold back. Obviously, we're just talking with you right now, you don't hold back. Where do you get that strength? Because I'm sure there's times where you're out and about, and you're in these conversations with people that disagree with you. I mean, there's got to be times where you're just like, man, like I don't want to fight every time I go outside. So where do you get the strength from?
Well, I mean, first of all, the city was not always left-leaning. Okay, Steve Horn was our congressman, who was a Republican, a very good Republican for a very long time. Ran Cal State Long Beach, so Long Beach State was considered a more right-leaning university out of the Cal State system. Okay, so this has happened the biggest transition's been over the last since Robert Garcia took on as mayor. And again, I'm not blaming it all on him, because it's definitely a societal issue. But I can tell you that the timing is eerie, because it really wasn't always that left. And even we always have had a very large gay community, gay population, and they don't necessarily lean super left. That's the portrayal now with all the transgender and all this other craziness. But really, for many years, they were very moderate, level-headed community of people, just like anyone else. And they didn't have to be Republican, but they at least knew what was right and what was wrong. And I'm not talking about social issues. I'm just talking about just issues, period. And so I don't know. I go out. My strength comes from really knowing the fact that I actually know what I'm talking about. I mean, I've been here. I've seen it. I've lived it. I didn't just serve on boards with my name on it. Okay, I was always either vice president or president. I didn't go there to waste my time. I didn't go to, if I was in a committee or on a task force of some kind, I was there to get something done. It wasn't just to sit there and make myself feel good. Okay, and so when people do disagree with me, obviously I'm smart enough I'm socially adaptive. Okay, I'm not going to start screaming at the top of my lungs or start creating a real hard confrontation. If I know the person just either doesn't get it or is totally opposite where I'm sitting, we just change the subject. I mean, there's enough things. The great thing about my life is I have a wonderful, wonderful life. I have two healthy, successful children. I have a wonderful wife of 29 years now. So, I live on the water. I drive nice cars. I do I do things. My life is great. I want to give back to the community, and that's why I've always wanted to give back to the community, because I feel very blessed. I feel I earned it. No one handed it to me. My parents didn't leave me any money. Not that there's anything wrong with inheriting money. I've got lots of great friends that have inherited millions of dollars, and I'm very happy for them. But most of my friends are still very successful in their own right. They're not just, trust fund losers that never did anything with their lives, just got money. These are successful people in their own right, and then just happen to be lucky enough to have parents that left them money or were able to help them out. I bought my first home with my earnings from a very large couple of months I had as a stockbroker, and was able to buy the home that I lived in for 25 years without any help from any relatives or anything else. And so I don't have empathy for people that don't want to help themselves, but I have all the empathy and compassion in the world for those that are less fortunate, and that were, especially children. I put very high emphasis. Most of my work that I've done in the community has been for children, to make their lives better. There were lots of times where my son was in tournaments and things that were away from the area, and we were the first ones to load up two kids that had parents that were both working who couldn't go, and we would take them on these trips, or we would pay for whatever needed to be paid for, and that was just the right thing to do, and that's what we did. And and that's what the Century Club does. I was president of the Century Club. I know it's surprising I was president, but yes, 2019 I was president of the Century Club. We raised our membership from an average of about 300 to 520. And that was the efforts of the entire board, of course, but it's not by coincidence. Okay, we're back down to about 300. Of course, the pandemic was a majority of the reasons why we lost quite a few, because a few businesses just didn't make it. And we had a lot of business owners that were members, and just through attrition and not being able to be out in the community and not having any sports for a year, you lose membership. But my point is that we raise money since 1958 for underprivileged youth or high achieving youth, non-professional. And we give out about 60, 70 grand a year to help fund uniforms for schools, Cabrillo and Pauley and some of the less fortunate financial area schools, as well as Wilson and Milliken and Lakewood. So we spread it out. But my point is that I put my heart and soul. I'm still on the board, and I put my heart and soul in it, because that actually did something. We have people come to us and we give them money, and we make the difference between whether that kid can play and be part of a good thing, or get into trouble and join a gang or whatever else that they may find if they weren't playing the sports. And so we need more people like that. We don't have enough people that everyone now is it seems like especially the COVID, but even before that, their people are concerned about their own families, and they care, but they're not as concerned about going out there and doing something. And we do have a lot of very generous people, though. I mean, and some people can't. Some people are too old. They're 70 years old, they're 80 years old. They're not going out there shaking trees and kissing babies. Okay, but they write checks. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about with the direction of the city. The more and more people that move out that have a history with the city and sell to the next rich guy that comes in that works in LA and just wants to be further away from the destruction of all that terrible going on in downtown LA. They don't know anything about Long Beach. They're not committed to the community. They don't, they bought a place on the water, or in Naples, or in Belmont Shore, or wherever, and they're just happy to be away from the direct targets of Los Angeles. But they don't, and we need to get the word out, and we need people that are still here to do it. I mean, and your podcast is about Long Beach, and that's great. And I hope my words get out, and I hope it resonates with some people that say to themselves, what, I need to get involved, and they can reach me if they want to be involved in the Long Beach Century Club. You can show up. We have meetings every week. You can show up to one meeting a year. You can show up to every single week, and we have a speaker 3 out of the 4 weeks where we will get the coaches from Long Beach State, or we'll get the president of Long Beach State, or we'll get City College, or the coach from Wilson High School baseball, or all the football coaches. So if you want to know what's going on with amateur sports in Long Beach, and want to raise some money for some kids, there are opportunities out there. And the more we do that, the more people get involved and become aware of the problems and how to fight them and how to change things. That's how we're going to get things turned around in Long Beach, and that can happen. Because again, it's not pick on Garcia or any of the other current council members, but I can tell you one thing: if you have not been in this city for at least 10 or 15 years before you run for office, you don't have the understanding of what the community needs as far as Long Beach community. Okay, anyone can tell you that the roads need to be replaced, okay, and the garbage needs to be taken out. That doesn't take. Then there's no difference between Cypress or Long Beach or Orange when it comes to those issues. But Long Beach is very unique. It has lots of different communities. We have lots of different nationalities. We have a lot of different interests. And if you don't know the city, you can't serve it right. And instead, you'll just use it as a platform for whatever future endeavor you may have, and it will have very little to do with Long Beach, most likely.
I want to transition a little bit because you were talking about you having a good life, and you do have a good life, but you've had some hardships in your life. You battled cancer that you beat.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with your can-do attitudes. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, I can tell you that you're right. That definitely gave me even more focus. I always had a little bit of focus, but that certainly was a wake-up call. I had been. That's one of the reasons. That was the driving reason why I sold the beach club. It came down with cancer when I owned that restaurant, and the stress was too much for the cancer. But yes, I was very lucky. I was overweight and 40 years old, and I had too many Diet Cokes during the day, and was in the middle of the night, my heart was palpitating very rapidly. And my wife said, "You're over 40 now. You're 40 and you're overweight and your heart's palpitating in the middle of the night where you were woken up. You got to go see a cardiologist, your doctor right away, doctor actually." And then I went to go see my doctor. He did an EKG on me. He said, the heart fluttering. I said, "The EKG looks okay." He says, "But I'm going to send you to the cardiologist anyway." Went to the cardiologist, Rex Winters, great man, has his practice over there in Cyprus, right? He used to be at Memorial. Now he works through Los Alamitos, but he has his own practice, has all that 3D imaging of the heart, the lungs, and everything else. So he puts me in the machine, and I go. I'll never forget the day. I went and dropped my kids off at the dirtbag game, and he called me and he said, "I've got good news and bad news." He says, "The good news is your heart's fine. The bad news is you've got cancer." And he found it right over my heart. It was right over my heart. And he had brought me in. I didn't know this at the time. He had brought me in one more time, and he brought actually a guy who knew cancer, not an oncologist, but someone that could recognize it, and to make sure. And then he told me. And so I went to go see my oncologist, Mario Curti, great guy also out of Los Alamitos, that big ugly brick building. And he said, "There's no way your cardiologist found cancer." And I said, "No, I'm telling you, my family has a history of it. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. My parents both had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The good news about Hodgkin's is it moves fast, but it's treatable, very treatable. The non-Hodgkin's moves slow, but it's much harder to kill." So he said, "But we'll do the, not the MRI, but whatever it was I had to do. Can't remember now what it was. But, and sure enough, they found a cancer both over my heart and under my arm. And I was in stage 2B. And the good news was that they did find it in the second place that wasn't over my heart, because to do a biopsy on that particular set of cells could have put me in danger of dying on the table. So they did the biopsy out of my arm. They found it. I went up to City of Hope for a second opinion. They confirmed the treatment that I was going to do in Los Alamitos is what they would do until it didn't work. And then they say, "Come see us if it doesn't work. We've got other stuff, but this is what we would do right now." So I stayed in Los Alamitos, and after chemo for for 3 months and radiation for another month. I was cancer free, and I've been cancer free for 12 years. So I'm 52 years old now, and I was 40 when it happened. So yeah, but once you go through that, then I lost 100 pounds, and I've kept it off. I'm right at 195, and I was right at 300 when at the high mark when they gave me the steroids. I puffed up like a huge balloon. I was about 270 before the cancer. I'm the only guy you'll meet that actually gained weight and kept his hair during cancer treatment, but I was able to do both. So I decided if I'm going to live past cancer, I better get my butt in gear. And so I lost the 100 pounds. I work out every day, 6 days a week. And I try to watch what I eat, but I sometimes don't, but I do enjoy the occasional drink, which is my only vice now. And so anyway, yeah, so that really made me focus on what was important, and really gives you more of a, now I've done it all. Now I've seen death. I've looked it in the eye. There are no do-overs. There are no dress rehearsals, so I'm living it to the fullest. I'm doing everything I want to do, because you can't take it with you. And really, you just never know. I mean, just because I beat cancer doesn't mean I can't get it again. And just because I beat cancer doesn't mean I can't get another disease, or I can get hit by a car. So, it's all the same. So I lived every day like it's my last, but I'm careful enough just in case I'm around the next day.
So tell me, like, I mean, there had to been times, especially when you're going through chemo and radiation, that there were days that we were like, man, this is awful. What kept you going? What was your thought process that kept you going through those tough times?
I wasn't going to let, my son was just entering high school, just entering. And I'd seen kids whose fathers had passed away before they graduated high school. And not just personally, but just in society itself. And my biggest thing was, if I wasn't going to beat it, I was at least going to make it through his formative years and see him off to college, and not, because a lot of kids can go very different direction when they lose their parents, either one or both, God forbid. And so that was really what drove me, was I didn't want to be an impact on what his life direction by dying. You know what I'm saying? And the worst part of the whole process of cancer was the not knowing, because even though I had already been diagnosed with the cancer and they gave me the treatment, you don't know until you're feeding your body. You're sitting there getting this poison pumped into your body, not even knowing if it's working. So that was the worst time, was because after the first cycle, they stopped, and then I tested and they said, good news, it's almost gone. So then I went through the last 2 cycles. I was very encouraged that it was going to be wiped out completely. So it wasn't as hard the last few months, but that first month especially was devastatingly hard, painfully hard. Yeah, but you do what you got to do. What you got to do. I mean, I wasn't going to give up. I didn't feel like 40 was my time. And God and this gentleman, like I said, if it wasn't for the fact that my wife pushed me out of bed to make sure I went to the doctor, and then if it wasn't for Rex Winters, which they did an article on him as well, when he saved my life, I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for him. So I see him still, and he just lost a lot of weight. He looks better than he's ever looked before, but he sold his practice. He's still practicing, but he sold it to PIH, and he's still in the same building and everything else. But he looks phenomenal, and he was heavy. And a cardiologist being heavy doesn't make a lot of sense, but he was, and now he looks great, and he should be around for quite some time. So anyway, that's the story, man.
Right on. Well, let's go back to let's end it in a more of a lighter note.
Okay.
What places in Long Beach do you like to go to hang out and to eat?
Well, I mean, anyone that knows me, anyone that's on Facebook knows where I go. If I'm not at the boathouse, I'm nowhere. Okay. The boathouse is, not only is it down the street from my office, it's the only place I take clients that come in for a review or anything like that. It's the only place I like to go and see my friends. We have a Friday lunch weekly that I'm there, and I'm probably in the boat, and we've got our meetings at the boathouse for the Century Club. which was also a part because of the fact that myself and Gary Coey and a few others frequent the business as much as we do. We were given that space in the back there to meet, which is great. And yeah, I mean, the boathouse is in, obviously, but of course, I will give you a few more because they are great places, and I do go there often. I love, of course, Casey Brannigan's, fantastic place in Naples. I like George's if I want a nice dinner and also be at the scene of the Naples crowd there who hang out frequently there, and of course dogs, and my buddy's place Jade for Chinese. They've got sushi, they've got a little bit of everything, but I will tell you that there really are no good Chinese food places here that have a nice atmosphere and a full bar other than Jade, and so I do like to go to Jade. But no, there's a lot of fun places, and of course we just had our social. We do once a month. The Century Club moves their meeting around to patronize other places. We just had our social downtown at La Opera, and after the city allowed it to burn down, and the current chief of police at the time, Luna, who's now trying to run for a higher office, shocker, who let the city burn. Anyway, La Opera's back. It's the same great service, same great people working there, and atmosphere is still absolutely impeccable. So as far as Italian places go, that is the go-to spot in Long Beach. And if you have not been there, or have not been there since the destruction and the resurrection, or the rising phoenix from the ashes, you got to go back, because it's a cool place, and it's somewhere to go and see. So yeah.
Awesome. Is there any last words you want to leave our audience with?
Well, like I said, I hope that this wasn't too boring. I didn't go too off the radar, but the city of Long Beach is a very special place and will always be a special place in my heart. I want it to be that same special place for the next generation and the generation after that. It's going to be fine regardless for me and my friends, and especially the ones that are older than I am, because we're at the back nine, maybe the back four, and so we're going to get through it regardless, and we're going to enjoy it as best we can. But the real people that need to see it as the next generation, and if we don't get involved and we don't wake up and yell from our rooftops to get involved, Long Beach won't always be the same Long Beach that I enjoyed and continue to enjoy. So I hope it hits home for some more people. So thank you for letting me speak. I enjoyed it.
Ben Goldberg, thanks so much for coming on. I know you're extremely busy. I follow you all over social media. You're always doing something. So thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's it. It's a Long Beach thing.